Paul Barron. This is TechPath. Thanks again for tuning in. One of the things that people, I think, at least in cryptocurrency, whether you're new to investing in cryptocurrency or you're new just into studying the space, the biggest problem and challenge I think a lot of people have is understanding what these projects are all about. And are the projects, are they robust enough to kind of move to the next level, or are they robust enough to kind of wear the test of time? Because I think that's what we're seeing across many of the programs, including Ethereum, where Ethereum essentially has had to go into a new version in ETH2 to be able to deal with some of its challenges that were early on. This is a typical process that a lot of program and development companies go through, so it's not anything new, and I think it's just one of those things that you have to be prepared for. So today we're going to dive into Chainlink, and Chainlink is one of those companies, I shouldn't say companies, one of those technologies that really are, I think, innovative beyond what most people really understand in terms of what this technology can do for blockchain and real-world data. Just as a reminder, this is not investment advice. We are not financial advisors. We always want you guys to do your own research and put your own research packages together. We do this on our own findings and options. Basically, options are the things we use as tools. And of course, if you're going to invest in anything, you've got to do your deep dive. And also another thing, don't go with the first news article or the first resource. Get a few backups, get a couple of supporting positions if you're trying to go on a position. That's really the best way to do it. So let's dive into Chainlink. I want to go over here to a quick article on what Chainlink is really all about. Let me scroll up here. So this was a piece done back in September over on Better Programming. And really the idea was, how do you explain what Chainlink is and what a blockchain oracle is? Now, before many of you tech heads get out there, Oracle is not the database Oracle, just so you're clear on that. This Oracle is basically an intermediary. So much like, Neo and the Oracle of Matrix, that was a person that essentially was the segue between the real world and what was the other real world. So oracles are exactly the same thing in the blockchain environment. Essentially, they're a handshake. When you look at this, blockchain oracles, any device or entity that connects a deterministic blockchain with off-chain data, which is real-world APIs. This is, it gets a little deep here, but I want to make it somewhat simple to understand. You're a banking institution and you want to connect your API over to the blockchain. You have two choices. One is you're going to go through an oracle. There's two types of oracles, and it's what they call the oracle problem. The oracle problem is the fact that you either are decentralized or you're centralized. Decentralized is the idea that Chainlink has basically brought to the market. Centralized is the model in which most of API and integration occurs in the blockchain. So the problem that you have is once you have a centralized oracle, meaning one or two spots where the data is going to flow through and essentially wind up on the other side and surface in the blockchain, is hackable. It's probably one of the most, I would say it is the most vulnerable point of the whole transaction, stream, when you look at how real-world data and real-world applications are going to eventually interface into the blockchain. That's why you see a lot of companies who are basically building on the blockchain itself. And I want to kind of go down here on how Oracle solved this problem. So basically an entity or device that connects a deterministic blockchain with off-chain data. Now, if you understand blockchain data is a very deterministic process, that's why it essentially is unhackable to a certain extent, and it becomes something that is very easily to verify. That's the biggest scenario that oracles represent. That is also the oracle problem, as I mentioned. So where Chainlink comes into play is they take it a step further and they basically use a decentralized stack of an oracle. And what that does is by using decentralized aspects of this, it completely solves the problem that a centralized oracle basically does, which is, as you can kind of see here, using a centralized oracle nullifies the advantage of smart contracts and major security risks, which is the hack. This is the idea that decentralized oracle. So I want to put this into application for you. The application side of this is huge. Chainlink, in my opinion, is one of the most undervalued coins and blockchain technologies or blockchain interface technologies that are out there. a lot of people that really love Chainlink and really understand where its technology is going are all on board with this. But where I think the challenge was in the early days of Chainlink was that there was not enough companies really interested in interfacing to the blockchain. It just wasn't there yet. And most of the companies that were playing in the blockchain world, they were already on the blockchain. Now remember, the blockchain lives in its own universe. It is its own thing. It's not on the internet. This is not something that you can plug into. It's not like a protocol on TCP or a web protocol or even an ETH protocol for, and not meaning ETH as in the coin, but Ethernet protocol where you can plug into it from some sort of computer. This is a layer of technology that basically analyzes certain types of calculations and functions in a very isolated and deterministic function and way of doing things. So that's what makes it so secure. It's also what makes it so unique. That's why Bitcoin is what it is. It's a very unique store of value that has almost an unimpenetrable or impenetrable in terms of security. So that's the scenario and the challenge that I think blockchain represents to the rest of the world if you're outside the blockchain universe, but yet at the same time you want to be in the blockchain universe. Well, the way you're going to have to do that is through Chainlink and their technology. So I think they have definitely put themselves in a spot to really kind of shine here, especially in this bounce off the floor. So I want to jump to TradingView and kind of show you a little bit here of how we're tracking and where this might end up for Chainlink. And this is live as of 6/1, about mid-afternoon here today. But basically what we've done is we've analyzed the dips again for sentiment. Dips usually give me two things. One is they give me a track record of consistency and conviction in the investors that are basically riding the rise up, and this is why it's concerning to me, or not concerning, but this is why it helps paint that picture. Here's the thing, if you have a declining sentiment right here and then a rapid rise, does the sentiment recover? In fact, it does. It went from 32 to almost 40, which is an excellent, even though we had a little bit of a downturn. This sentiment right here is what we call a leading indicator that helps you identify if we see positive sentiment moving during a downturn after a nice up, then you start to look at, well, what's next? The next issue, remember, a lot of this is really geared toward how people, it's the node effect, the Metcalfe law, all the things that happen in social media and all the things that happen in cryptocurrency, especially around these technologies. So a lot of this kind of flows in with this. So where I wanted to track down into this is a new model that we've been putting together where we start to layer in, and I've got another video coming on Solana that starts to layer this in much more dramatically because we're looking back at what we call amplification. Amplification essentially takes a certain element of sentiment and then it basically quantifies the use of how sentiment is being acquired and how quickly it's amplifying, how quickly does it measure against what's happening in real world. And if you look at where Chainlink is, let's go right here to this high, which occurred on right at around midnight or so, and that was at around $32. It started to dip a little bit. We see sentiment right here rise dramatically at the 61.53, which was up dramatically from 40.21. And this is where we are right now. So when you look at the price tolerance here, potential for Chainlink, and just to give you guys an idea of where I think this is going to go in the next day, I think we are going to see this move up to around $35. I want to zoom out on this and over a little bit to give you kind of an end point, which really is this little marker out here at around $36 by the 21st. So I know this isn't a heavy move, but it definitely is in the right direction. Now, there are some benefits to this. If we see, and I'm going to try to follow up this with another video to kind of layer in the amplification. We didn't have time to do the amplification data on Chainlink, but I do have it on Solana. And it helps us understand how the ebb and flows of amplification can affect real world. And it's been fairly accurate in how it's starting to track. The key there is obviously key things that happen in the application or in the technology, some kind of big FUD or something that is a huge press release or a huge news item that starts to hit that changes the really kind of the trajectory of how amplification and sentiment really kind of come together. So that's the big thing, I think, as you're looking at Chainlink. Right now, great opportunity here. If you look at this, let's go out to the 1 month, just so you can kind of see where the volatility has been and how far it's come. We have a lot of upside when you look at where Chainlink has been. And I want to kind of jump that down a little bit just to see our 3 month. Let's go to our 6 month, and you can kind of see where that high was, which was right here at $53. And this was back in the end of May, right around the crash or the correction period that we had. So when you look at that, and then you jump in and see what's happening right here in the sentiment, let me kind of zoom over a little bit, and where that potentially can take us. The opportunity, I'm going to get back in here on the sentiment layer. The opportunities are pretty grand on how this is going to play out for Chainlink. So I think one is, as we start to see these sentiments all lift, which went from a 32, a 40 to a 61, and we're seeing movement in the space, this is where I think we really have a big opportunity to kind of see Chainlink take its next jump into and close to back to its $50 price target. So if you're looking at one of these altcoins, these are the kind of scenarios that we really are diving into on a deeper level. And if you understand the projects that are behind this, if you are really a tech head and understand what Chainlink represents to real world data, then you understand where this is going. Chainlink is definitely one of those very unique opportunities in cryptocurrency, and also just unique in terms of blockchain technology interface, that I think a lot of companies are trying to figure this all out. Chainlink, I think, is in a perfect position to start interfacing to a lot of these institutional opportunities that are going to be out there. And that's everything from companies that are doing supply chain management to food supply, education, medical. There's going to be so many different aspects, education, as I mentioned, that are going to be looking at ways to interface to the blockchain. And the one company or the few companies out there, and the leader being Chainlink, are going to be the ones that kind of represent the opportunity for a future of where this is going in blockchain. Make sure, if you're tuning in over on the podcast, to subscribe. Give us a couple of stars over there if you like what we're doing. And also you can give us a couple of ratings in terms of telling us what you like about the show. If you're tuning in right here on YouTube, make sure and subscribe. This is the thing, man. We are trying to get to the 100,000 sub mark here on the channel. We've got a little bit to go, but we are accelerating fast because of you, our listeners and viewers. And because of that, we definitely want to listen to what you'd like to hear. So if you have an idea for a show that you want to see, and this particular video right here was based off of comments that we got in our own channel to say, hey, let's do a breakdown on Chainlink, get a little deeper on it. So we did. And that's the way to do it. If you have an idea, you can hit them in the comments below, shoot an email to us, producer@reverendnetworks.com, or you can always hit me up on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.